Welcome to another episode of Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready-minded, the podcast for the prepared. We have our hosts, Shane and Paris right now. Scott actually came down, unfortunately, with the flu. So if you're a praying people, pray for his recovery. We are hoping that he'll be back and ready to go. We missed him last week, and we were excited to have him back this week, and then he got sick. So we're going to hopefully we'll have him back next week. I'll actually be gone next week, but we'll have him back for sure. Anyways, we have an exciting show today. We really do. We have one of the one of the experts in food storage. Let me just read really quickly a few things about him. We got Marcello Surjopolos on the show with us today, and he's our special guest. He owns actually the Food Storage Depot, which is a fantastic food storage. According to the statistics, it's the largest food emergency preparedness retail store in Utah. Marcello actually is a pioneer in emergency preparedness, and he has helped large corporations, U.S. special operations, celebrities, churches, hospitals, government entities of all sizes, and thousands of families worldwide get prepared. His background is as a consultant, a first responder, a manufacturer, a popular presenter, and he's spoken at several. I know he used to speak all the time with Scott. That's kind of how we met, was the PrepperCon back in the day. And so he's an expert in food storage. If you think you know about food storage, spend 5 or 10 minutes with Marcello, and you will have your mind blown about what food storage really is. And so we're excited to have him on the show today. He's got a course that he's created and is creating to help prepare people. Now, Marcello, when we talked a couple of weeks ago, you had a goal to have, I don't know what it was. Was it a certain number of families that you want to have prepared by a certain amount of time? Like, what was your goal that you shared?
Oh, absolutely. So just give you a background. Professionally, I got started, and just give you my background. I used to be director of entrepreneur development for the state of Utah, and I've done over 30 companies. Every company I do, I always ask myself, is it going to help people? You know, like money doesn't motivate me, if that makes sense. Is it going to serve people? Obviously, you need money to be able to do good, right? To be able to build companies and pay payroll and everything else. But I always ask myself, you know, is it going to help people? Well, about 13 years ago, I didn't plan on getting into this business. And it was something that, if you know, you're talking about faith, it was just something I did not plan to do. I had two buddies of mine, had a lot of money. They said, look, pick a team, pick a business, anything you want, and pick whatever you're going to go into, Marcello, and we'll fund whatever you want. And so I said, sure, I know exactly what I'm going to go into. So I picked my team. I knew my business. I went to the internet on a Saturday morning, talked to my buddy, and said, hey, I'm going to pick a company online we can purchase and just get started, so we don't have to start from scratch. And he said, awesome. And so I hung up the phone with him, went to Google, and something as clear as day, right, upstairs, something as clear as day said, do food storage. And I didn't expect to go into that business. And so that's what we did. We purchased a company. We grew to number 3 on the internet. We took the Navy SEALs as a client, clients all over the world, Swedish military, FEMA, Red Cross, a whole bunch of different people, large companies, and we've been able to work with them. The interesting thing about it is, and look, this is my ADD. I forgot your question, but let me tell you this real quick. The funny thing is, over the last 13 years, I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars in mistakes. So when you guys talk about you can learn more from this guy in 5 minutes on food and everything else, it's not because I've done everything right. I've done a lot of things wrong. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I've messed up so many times. Was such, I mean, $20,000 mistake here, $30,000 mistake there, $50,000 mistake there, $10,000 mistake there. It's just when you do that enough times, it's painful, and so you get to teach from your experience. And the funny thing about it is, the majority of our industry is started by marketers, not by manufacturers. Mm-hmm. Most people don't know that in the food industry, and so they're amazing marketers. And almost every time, like you can almost guarantee, anytime you go to the internet and you see a ton of marketing for emergency preparedness products, okay, you can guarantee that they have huge margins and usually cheap products. And because you hear their names so many times, because they're amazing marketers, right? You think they're the best, but sometimes they're the cheapest stuff in the market. And I like to show people the principles and do what's right. So go back to your question. I have $1,000 product, right? You have a $17.67 that goes to a $1,000 product. And right now I've been rewriting that product. I launched it after about 3,000 to 4,000 hours of putting together the course back in 2016. And over the last 8 years, I've learned so much more. I mean, every year, thousands of hours into mistakes, into learning, into everything else, that I said, oh man, I got to redo this. So I started last year to redo it. Most people put a course out in about a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm about 12 months into it. I just got the workbook redone with a ton of good information in it. And I'm working on the redoing the videos. So that should be done hopefully by the end of summer 2024, right? And with that information, we've made it completely measurable so that we know that when a family finishes our course, they paid $997 for it and they finished the course, then we give them $1,000 back in preparedness products and they get all their money back. But that made it measurable so we know we helped one family. And our goal when I finish the videos, which hopefully in a couple months, our goal is to start marketing and have 10,000 families within 12 months finish that $997 course. I think we're going to do more than 10,000. But 10,000 is my goal. And at the end of 12 months, this is kind of dumb for some people, but I want to be able to see that 9,999 and then see that last 10,000 come in and they redeem their $1,000 package. And I want to weep that I helped 10,000 families within 12 months. It's become a personal goal. I don't know if you know, this is my personal mission. I've been putting all the money into the company, not taking a paycheck. And this is my personal mission to help as many families as I can, because I think we're coming to some really tough things. I've been in this industry long enough, 13 years, to not believe every conspiracy theory, to not go crazy when everybody thinks the world's going to end. But I know that there's some pretty bad stuff.
There's been several predictions over the last 5 to 10 years, and none of them come true.
No.
Although there has been some movement down the field, and so there's some things to stay aware of. But you're right.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're in a perfect storm. I mean, I've never seen in 13 years professionally of doing this and probably another 10 years of doing preparedness before that, I've never, ever in my life seen this much movement towards craziness, right? We're closer to another big pandemic. We're closer in this time, who knows if it's natural, right? Or man-made. Man-made's more dangerous, right? I used to be able to, like, if you were to go back 10 years ago, okay, 2020, 2014, actually go back 5 years ago, 2019, okay, most of the people I was servicing were worried about natural emergencies, like an earthquake, okay, like a hurricane, okay. That was the majority of the people I was helping out. Guess what's happened since then? Flipped.
Oh, yeah. Political unrest now, or pandemic issues, or like, yeah, absolutely.
People are worried about man-made. Yeah, people are worried about man-made. They're worried about man-made financial disasters. They're worried about war. They're worried about a pandemic that's man-made. It's crazy how things have changed completely. And I'm grateful for 2020, because before 2020, it's like, oh, you're one of those. Like, preparedness guy, right? Yeah. And from 2020 onward, I've had so many calls from people who would never do preparedness and say, what do I do next? What do I do next? And I've been able to help so many people. So I'm grateful for 2020, but I really think a lot of crazy things are coming. And if people aren't looking at the signs, they're going to miss it. I mean,
yeah, you know, that's really why I see a lot of people are here. They see the signs and they start looking around and they find us and they connect and we have a lot in common. You know, we don't go mostly to the conspiracy side, although, like we were talking before the show, is we're fully aware of what's going on. And I think everybody else is as well. We just try we try to talk about this type of stuff, you know, stuff that really makes a difference and helps. The solutions, exactly.
Absolutely.
And then just touch and highlight on the topics, on the headlines, right? Because people, they already know what's going on, and it doesn't help for us to try and scare anyone. Let's uplift, let's help people, like you say. And I'd love what you're doing. You just like us, or we feel just like you. We feel called, I'll use those air quotes, you know, to do what we're doing. I've mentioned a number of times, you know, every week, you're like, you know, I feel a little discouraged. I don't want to do this, but I realize this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm here because I'm trying to help, right? just like you. So we have a lot in common that way. So
Awesome. I love that.
yeah.
So one of the things I really like about your system, obviously everybody needs to buy products and they need to have food sitting on the shelf and they need to have the storage. One of the things that I find is that, and even in my own situation, I'm going to totally be transparent here. Like I have some great things on my shelf. I actually had a power outage just this last couple weeks ago, and I talked about it on the last episode. And one of the things I realized was that I need an extra microwave so I can reheat because the microwave I have is built into my cabinets. And I'm like, I can't unplug it. So anyways, I realized a few things about that I need to do. And
Yeah.
so what I'm thinking is that a lot of people that I even just who are more casual preppers, or maybe they're not like hardcore as hardcore, or even medium core, intermediate. They're like, well, I got all the food storage. Isn't that good enough? Well, no, you need to know how to prepare it. You need to know how to get it ready. You need to do you have the right kind? I mean, there's a lot of things going into it, right? And so your course teaches a little bit. So kind of walk us through if you can. Obviously we want to provide value today and not just a commercial, but there will be a link in the description, by the way, for this course, because we're promoting Marcello's program. We highly believe in what he's doing and what we really want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to get the education that he's providing, as well as, I mean, shoot, if I'm going to spend $1,000 on food storage, I might as well get a course, get an education, and then get $1,000 back of food storage. Like, this is a no-brainer, seems to me. You know what I mean?
Well, so we made it so that it would help people. So
yeah, walk us through a little bit about, okay, somebody clicks the link, that first course, kind of what's the ideal there? What's your plan with that?
Yeah, let me back up a little tiny bit so you can understand where it's coming from. What happens in the industry, and I'll just show this to you. This is the workbook that goes with the master course, right? It's about 300 pages long, and it has all these places to take notes while you watch the videos of the master course. This thing is invaluable. I mean, you can't put a price to it, because not only the information in there, but all your notes. If the internet were to go down, you have a whole manual to save yourself during an emergency.
Is that manual extra?
Say again? No, that comes with the whole course.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you get about $9,000 worth of value in that course. We give you a ton of stuff, and I can go into that later. But let me go tell a little bit about what people need to learn. And in fact, do you want me to go through the 7 steps of preparedness? I mean, that's what's in the course. When it says right here, 7 steps to exceptional emergency preparedness. This is an author copy, so it has this little line across it. So it's not the copy you're going to get. Anyone's going to get. But that's just my copy to proofread it. But let me back up a little bit. One of the things that I learned from doing this professionally for so long is called the preparedness cycle. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Probably not, because I came up with it. And and so it's the preparedness vicious cycle. And what it is this. Do you remember back 2020 happened, people went crazy, bought tons of stuff from me. 2021, with all the COVID shots, people were buying tons of stuff with me. 2022 came around, and you can see it slowing down. 2023 came around, and what was it? 2023 is that when the Ukraine-Russia war happened? I think that was March. Yeah. Okay, people went nuts and just bought a ton of stuff from me, right? And what happened is the war in Ukraine is still going on. You know that, right?
Yeah.
And a year and some months later, people aren't motivated. In fact, the Israel-Hamas thing, which to me should have been motivating, because that's prophecies, right, starting to happen. Mm-hmm. And that happened, and barely anybody bought stuff. Why? Because they got used to the news of war with Russia and Ukraine. And what happens is this. People will get motivated out of fear, like you talked about, and I'm a big person on faith, right? When I did a big show, in fact, this preparedness challenge, I brought in 20 of my friends from the show alone and from all these celebrities, all these really good experts, and I asked them the question, you guys all know it's going to get tough, right? And they said, yeah. I said, how many of you are afraid of the future? And they said, none of us. And I said, me neither. It's like, I'm okay with it. In fact, I'm excited to be part of the solution, just like you two are.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So that's that's absolutely true. When you're prepared, there's a true principle in that. Preparedness gives you the faith to know that, hey, whatever comes, and we can't be 100% prepared for 100% of things. But if we're going to be in a situation where we're solution oriented and we have a very foundational and strong foundation of preparedness, I think we'll be able to weather whatever does come. And
Absolutely.
like I don't, like, I know what the prophecies say, and I'm like, man, there's some people out there that are going to get like, I'm not very excited about it. Honestly, I wish it wasn't going to happen, but it's going to happen. And so to me, it's like, okay, I just want to know, give me the awareness. Okay, now that let me figure out how to prepare for it. And that's where one of the reasons why I started the show, and I know Shane is probably would have done this anyways, but one of the reasons I started the show was to get to talk to people like you, Marcello, and other experts we brought on here so I can get better at what I do. Like the whole idea of the teacher learns as much or more than the student. That's kind of why I'm doing this, so I can learn as much and be in a better position. So that's anyways, that you're absolutely right. Faith is the right spot. And I think it's because these guys, not only do they have stuff, but they have the skills. And that's important. The skills are important. That's
exactly. Really absolutely. And that's the thing is, when going back to the preparedness cycle, what happens is people hear a scary piece of news that's new. Okay. It can't be something old, something people got used to, right? It has to be something that scares people enough to motivate them to want to get prepared. And that's fine. Fear is a great short-term motivator. And the problem is within about a week and a half, people either get used to the news or news goes away and they go right back to not preparing. And so the first time they try to get prepared, they go get some bottled water and they go get, some toilet paper, right? That's the big thing they go get, right? The next time they try to go get prepared because the news scared them enough, they go get some canned food. And then they find out about 72-hour kits, so they go buy one from online knowing that those are junk. And if you try to eat stuff in there, you're not going to make it, okay? And they don't understand even what a 72-hour kit is for, right? And I can get into that when I talk about the 7 steps. But what happens is after a while, they go, wait a minute, there's more about preparedness. What else do I need? And they go, oh, my goodness, I need protection. So I better learn how to get a gun and learn how to shoot it. And I need, I need communication. I need power. And all of a sudden they find out, oh my goodness, I need more food that can last on a shelf, so I don't have to rotate it. And the more you get into preparedness, you find out there's probably about 50 things you got to do. And the more you get into it, the more you see that you haven't done it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing that I see an awful lot in questions from friends, family, members as well. They think they're prepared, but once you get into it, like the three of us, the further you get down the road, the more you realize you don't know, and the more you realize you're unprepared or how poorly prepared you actually are. Once your eyes are open, you're moving more down the preparedness road. And then another question I get a lot is about food storage in particular. Where do I go to get, because there's, like you say, there's so many marketing schemes out there that I think people inherently just don't trust. So like, well, this sounds great, but I don't know. And so
that celebrity is promoting this one, so I better buy that one because they would know better. I'm going to trust the influence there.
Yeah, it's a lot of money being spent on marketing, and when I see that, I inherently don't trust it.
Absolutely, and you shouldn't. If you can understand the principles of food, you'll be able to look at that and say, "Oh my goodness, I'm not going to fall for that trick." And I'll show you just a few things. Let me go.
Yeah, let's go through your 7 steps. And
let's go through the 7 steps. So just to understand, you got to get out of that vicious cycle, okay? And you got to get to a point where you're willing to actually get prepared the right way for the long run, right? And the truth is, you can get 80% of your preparedness done in 90 days or less if you know the steps.
Mm-hmm.
Better than most people get prepared in 10 to 15 years.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's what the Thrivalist course does. This Thrivalist course right there, exceptional preparedness, right? That's what it does. It teaches people in less than 90 days they can get better prepared than 10 to 15 years.
Awesome.
It's not meant to teach them everything in preparedness. The thing is, I teach when you look at Thrivalist, what is a Thrivalist? Well, you have preppers, you have survivalists, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And most people, when I go speak at the prepper conferences, when I speak at the survival conferences, I ask the preppers and I ask the survivalists, I say, what's the difference between a prepper and a survivalist? Nobody has a definition. And so I went to the internet trying to find one. There is none. So I created one. And you want to know the difference?
Yes.
A prepper focuses on supplies over skills. A survivalist focuses on skills over supplies. That's it.
That sounds accurate to me.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so what happens is a lot of people don't want to be known as preppers. I'm a prepper. They don't want to be known as preppers because they don't want to be known as hoarders.
Right.
And they don't want to be known as survivalists. I'm a survivalist, okay? They don't want to be known as survivalists because they don't want to be known as a militant, okay, or a minimalist. So they don't want to be known as an extremist.
Extremist.
The truth is you have to have a Venn diagram. You have to bring those two together because you need the right supplies and you need the right skills. If you have all the supplies in the world and they get taken from you, you're dead without skills. If you have the supplies and you don't know how to use them, you're dead. If you have all the skills in the world and you can't get supplies, it takes about 6 hours just to get enough food every single day for the next day per person, right? Okay, in your family. And I remember talking to a survivalist about that, and he said, I don't need any supplies. And I said, what about this? And I told him the reality of living in a city isn't going to make it. And if you try to go out to the mountains and get yourself deer, guess what? Everybody else is too, right? And so the idea is you have to have supplies. Well, when you bring those two together, there's a Venn diagram, and you can actually get 80% done in 90 days or less. What do I mean by 80%? I'm not going to teach you how to do a bow drill fire. I'm going to say go buy some matches. Get a couple extra lighters, right? So I'm going to teach you the fast way to get prepared so you don't have to spend your whole life. Because I'm 20, 30,000 hours into preparedness, and every single day I'm learning. I mean, like you never quit.
Yeah.
Just the answers are different. Today I was studying the pH level for bleach versus chlorine gas. I was trying to understand hypochlorous acid. If they get it to 5.7 pH, it's actually perfect. But if you mix it with water, it gets too high. I was going into stearamine. I was going into, things that bore people to death. It's just on my mind every single day, trying to understand and answer.
Well, that's where I think that is important to have a team where you have somebody that focuses on one area and another. Like you should have a little bit of knowledge about almost everything, but then have somebody that kind of like dives in a little further and say, okay, you're going to be the expert on that. I'll be the expert on this. And that community, their strength
absolutely
makes up for your weakness,
Absolutely. And that's where you get into the 7 steps. The first one is risk assessment. And you have to have a good risk assessment. Half of my book and half of my course, right? A lot of the videos are in risk assessment because people think they know what they're preparing for, but they don't. So you ask them, what are you preparing for? And they say, oh, I'm preparing for an earthquake. And I go, how big of an earthquake? Oh, I think it's a 7.0. What's the big difference between a 7.0 and an 8.0? I don't know, 10 times? Actually, 10 times. It's 10 times, but also 33 times, depending. It's 10 times bigger, but 33 times stronger, right? And so a lot of people don't understand the difference on an earthquake. And that's just one of about 20 different things you could be preparing for. And I put down all the things you should be prepared for and give you the answers so you can get started. But a lot of people here in Salt Lake, for example, don't know that we're on an ancient seabed. And with that big amount of sand right underneath all these houses that are old houses, a lot of times, there's a bunch of clay pipes underneath. And the city doesn't replace those pipes until they break. Well, if we had a big 7.0, I work with the top people in the state of Utah, and I asked them what's going to happen. They said, well, if we get a big earthquake, those pipes are going to break. You can't replace 70,000 pipes that quickly. So they're expecting many of the cities throughout the whole valley to be out without water for guess how long?
Years.
At least a year. Wow. Now, if you knew that, your preparedness would be different. And that's what I'm saying. You need to do risk assessment. You can't just say, I'm preparing for an earthquake or an EMP. You have to dig deep. And I do most of the work for people and give them the course so they can learn about, all the different risks. And then they can go and study it a little bit deeper locally and call their school board, their city, their utility companies, and find out what they're doing to prepare. So you have to have the risk assessment. That's number one. Number two, that you get into sudden emergency preparedness. Okay. Sudden emergency preparedness is the only part of my book that is short-term preparedness. Okay, that's the part where we're talking about the rules of 3 that you're familiar with, right? Most courses build their courses around the rules of 3. That's only for short-term emergency. It's you get stranded in the mountains. Earthquake just happened. The rules of 3, you know them, right? 3 seconds without hope. 3 seconds without, protection, attention. You can drive off a cliff, 3 minutes without air, or you can bleed to death within 3 minutes, right? Then you have 3 hours without heat or cold regulation. You have 3 days, right, without clean water, not just water, because you can get sick with dirty water pretty quickly if it has chemicals or whatever in it, and you can go less than 3 days. 3 days without clean water. Okay, you have 3 weeks without clean food, or nutritious food is a better way to put it. A lot of people sell. Let me see this. See if I have one of these. A lot of people are putting this in their 72-hour kits. These meal bars. Yeah. Have you ever tried to live off of these?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know Scott has, and he's mentioned that a number of times.
You can't do it.
Yeah. Not for long term, for sure.
It's empty calories. You get sick after 1 day, and if you get sick, you're gone.
Yeah.
And so the thing about it is you have to have nutritious food for 3 weeks at least. Then you get to 3 months where if you don't have companionship or other people around you, you can go a little bit crazy, right? Mm-hmm. And so those are the rules of 3. That has to do with short-term preparedness. And so a lot of people think, well, that's where most people stop. You know, they go get themselves a kit. They think they're good. And I go, well, what you going to use your kit for? They go, oh, it's easy. As soon as an emergency happens, I pull it out. And I got my bucket of 24-hour or 25 up to 25-year shelf life foods, right? And I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to be able to survive. And I'm like, really? Seriously? If an emergency happens, you're not going to hit that for a long time. You're going to go through your food in your freezer, food in your fridge, food in your pantry. You're not going to pull out that food. And then when you finally do get to that bucket, you're going to find out if it's most of the companies out there, the food is so horrendous, you're not going to want to eat it. And so, the thing about it is people don't understand, like, what is a 72-hour kit for? They think it's just to make it for 72 hours. No, that's not what it's for. Mm-hmm. Okay. What it's for is to give you enough time to find a more permanent solution. That's it. Mm-hmm. So you got 3 days to find a better place to live if you have to leave your house. So what do I tell people? At least 3 days, but you should shoot for 3 weeks. And there's simple ways of doing that. You think 3 weeks, I can't carry 3 weeks. You're not meant to carry 3 weeks. My kits are pretty awesome. But guess what I have? I have a dolly and a wagon. I have 2 dollies and 2 wagons for myself and my family, because I'm not going to carry a kit if I don't need to. Yeah. But I also have a plan for a car and a 5x8 trailer, and I can literally live with my whole family for 3 to 4 weeks easily with just what I'm carrying in my car and behind a little trailer. And that gives me 3 to 4 weeks to find a better, more permanent solution. That's what a 72-hour kit is for. It's not to live for 3 days. It's to give you time to find a better solution. Does that make sense?
Love it. Yeah, absolutely.
And even honestly, it's if you have a bug out location, it's giving you the resources to get to the location you've already predetermined that you're going to. Yeah. And that's more ideal, but I like what you're saying.
Absolutely. And then that bug out location needs to have the ability to sustain you for longer.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? The 72-hour kit is not the solution. Yeah. It's an intermediate. That's it.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's number 2 goes into a whole bunch of short-term emergency stuff. I'm hitting just a tiny bit. But next, number 3 is going to be food or water, because water is more important than food. And a lot of people don't understand water. They don't understand bottled water from the source not going to do it. You're going to want to put it in tanks. And if you do your water right, a lot of people say, how often do you rotate your water? And I say every 50,000 years. And they go, you're not going to last that long. And I say, you don't know that. But the truth is, you don't have to rotate it every year. If you do your water right, you can leave it there indefinitely. And you can be filtering water. You can be adding new water to it. You can be flocculating water. I just took water that was the most disgusting water in the world that would never, it's kind of like third world brown water, that you see. And I just took it, and there's no way you leave it for a year, 2 years, it's not going to fall out. And I just cleared out that water completely so you could see right through it, just like it came out of a tap. And it was so easy to do. I figured out chemically how to do it with very safe chemicals, and you're able to do super, super fast. And I figured out the best way to do it. Now you take that water, put it through a filter, and you get rid of all the microbes, or boil it, and you're good to go. There's so many things you got to know about water. Then number 4, you go to food. Okay. And food, when we're talking about that, is really interesting, because there's probably about 5 to 7 parts of food that you need to understand. I won't go into all of them, but I'll give you a little tiny bit of one of them, which is the 5 food killers. And if you're familiar with the 5 food killers, I think I did a show with you guys where I did the 5 food killers. That you have 4 of them everybody knows about. The 5th one I had to create, so that's why it's called the 5 food killers. 4, you got the heat, you got the oxygen. You guys know these, right? You got the light, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. And water.
Moisture.
Right?
Water.
Moisture. You got it.
Yeah.
Okay. But beyond those, you can get rid of all 4 of those and your food can still go bad. So I was trying to figure out why in the world is there a 5th one? And I started looking at it and go, oh my goodness, there is a 5th one because of oxidation.
Okay. Yeah. I see that.
Okay. So if you were to take dried potato flakes or greasy potato or greasy French fries, which one do you think can store longer?
You would think the dry potato flakes.
Obviously, right?
Yeah.
Because what happens to the oily, greasy?
It goes rancid.
Yeah, it goes rancid. But why does it go rancid?
Because of exposure to oxygen.
That's part of it. Get rid of all 4 food killers. Get rid of those.
Okay.
It's the oxidation.
Okay. Yeah.
Why is it going to go rancid? Even in oxygen-free, silver, all that stuff. Because as soon as you cook oil, you change the molecular structure of it. It oxidizes as you cook it.
And most of that oil is also rancid anyway when it's first made. I mean, it's part of the process.
Absolutely.
Using a rancid type oil to cook something.
Exactly. Yep. You got the idea. But even if you get extra virgin,
right. Cold pressed, whatever.
Cold press everything. As soon as you take
oil.
Oil is going to mess things up. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so you got oil, for example. Let me give you another one. There's a bunch of them, but I'll just give you
an oxidizer. Okay.
But let's go to if you were to take the majority, let me see if I have one of these. So, okay. So here is an example right here of the majority of the meals out there. Can you see that? Look how many ingredients are in there right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Okay. That is normal for most meals out there. And the majority of the companies out there are using the words up to 25-year shelf life. They're using the words built for. They're using the words designed for. They're not just saying it's a 25-year shelf life.
Yeah.
We're using words to get out of the FDA. But if you understood the FDA and the USDA and I were to read the rules to you, the FDA and the USDA do not require best by, use by, best before dates. They don't. Okay, that's totally at the discretion of me, the manufacturer.
Interesting.
Except for stuff like baby food and stuff like that are regulated. But if somebody wants to put 1,000-year shelf life on this food, they can. But to be safe, they use the words up to. And I remember being at PrepperCon, and I just got done speaking on one of the main stages there. And I remember walking around, and I got to a booth, and I knew, they're selling pancake mix. I mean, when you look at pancake mix does not last. You see that bulging right there? Okay, that doesn't last. Everybody in our industry knows never to package pancake mix. It doesn't make sense. It'll blow up. Okay. And so I remember going up to this booth and they had a 25-year shelf life, no worry guarantee. And I said to the sales guy, I said, you and I both know that pancake mix is not going to last more than a few years. How are you doing a 25-year shelf life, no worry guarantee? And he said, well, if it goes bad within 25 years, we'll replace it. I said, but it's going to go bad. He said, then we'll replace it. I said, but what if you go out of business? What if you sell to another company, And he goes, well, that's business.
Interesting.
And they're going, oh my goodness. So there's a lot of companies doing what's called calorie stuffing, where they'll put pancake mix in there. They'll put in lots of soup mixes. So you'll see a lot of soup mixes. You'll see a lot of rice and paste or pasta mixes, and that's okay. Those aren't too bad. But sugar drinks, they'll do all these things to up the calories with really not the best food out there. And
I just saw a TikTok about a guy who went and looked at like Parmesan cheese, and he saw on the ingredients there's sawdust.
Oh yeah, totally. Just to separate everything out. Yeah,
filler. It's like a filler to make it
keep it from sticking. Yeah,
you'll get that in protein mixes and stuff like that too. So it's interesting.
If they're doing it in shelf, if they're doing it in food, you can buy off the shelf just to use that week. They're going to do stuff.
That's been fine for the past 25, 30 years because most people don't eat this stuff, right? No. And they've gotten away from it. But we don't have that much time anymore, I don't believe, right?
No, and the thing about it is you got to remember, you're buying food that is going to save your life during an emergency. And so do you want the cheapest food in the world, or you want the best food in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is stuff that you might live on off of. And if you buy the right stuff, it's going to last 30 years rather than, going back to what I was saying, you take all these ingredients and you put them inside a pouch, okay? What's going to happen? All those ingredients are going to react to one another. There's going to be an acid. There's going to be a base. Just enough moisture to activate the two. There's going to be salt. Salt's going to break something down. When something breaks down, it's going to break something else down. You're going to have all these crazy chemical reactions over time. And so that's why people say up to, because they know that this mix that you just put in this pouch is probably going to start off tasting within a few years. And once it starts off tasting, it's like an exponential growth. It gets really bad. And I've had to throw away $20,000 worth of food for this one lesson alone. Do you want to know how to get around that?
Talk to you. Easy. That's how you get around that.
Yeah, no, it's easy. I can do my own meals like this. Mm-hmm. And I can make a gazillion bucks because it only costs a couple bucks, and then you sell it for $8, $9, and you just make a ton of money off of people. And I would have a ton of money to go ahead and advertise and make a gazillion dollars and think that I'm the coolest guy in the world. But the truth is, and I've done this, by the way, in the past, and I've sold it to celebrities, and they put their name on it. And I told them, they asked me, is this how long of a shelf life? I said 7 years. And then they go put up to 25 years shelf life on their websites. It happens everywhere. The way to get around it is this. Remember the 5 food killers? Let's talk about the 5th one. If you want to get rid of that, if you want all those ingredients to last 25 years, you have to pre-cook them. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because when you take all those ingredients, you add water to it, which diffuses all the chemicals in there, right? And then you cook it, which is a catalyst. And when you cook it, all the chemical reactions that can happen over 25 years happen right now. They're done. Mm-hmm. And then you freeze dry it and you put it in good packaging. You don't put it in cheap packaging. I brought some stuff here. Let me try to find one. You don't put it in cheap packaging where, you put it in some Mylar pouch. You look at this right here and people go, oh my goodness, that's amazing. It's Mylar. Mylar is a brand name, just like Kleenex. This is called a metallized pouch, but that's what almost every manufacturer is using to put their food in right there. And people think, oh, it's going to last 25 years. But all you have to do is just take a flashlight, put it in there. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those of you who are
lights
listening,
goes right through it.
Yeah, light just right through.
If light's going to go through, what else is going to go through it, right? Mm-hmm. So you're going to want to pre-cook your meals, which nobody except for one company I know of does that. So I don't try to do my own meals. I sell their stuff because it's better. Then I give my members discounts so they can get a better deal than even Amazon.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what percentage of all the food storage companies out there actually pre-cook and freeze-dry their meals rather than just one. Okay. Just one.
They've been doing it for 60 years.
Mountain House?
Yep. And the thing about it is when you look at all these other companies that are trying to figure out, they're claiming 25-year shelf life. What are they doing? They're going out there and putting a whole bunch of ingredients into a pouch that's cheap, okay, that doesn't really work very well. And then they're putting a 25-year shelf life, and that food's going to go bad. So by the time you need it in an emergency 10, 20, 30 years from now, you try to go eat it, and you can't. And you just spent all this money thinking that you're getting the best stuff in the world, and you spent $5,000 on it. I can't tell you how many families I've worked with that come up to me after I teach them the principles of food, and they go, I just spent $5,000 this last year on the wrong food. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I wish I could help you. If you knew the right food and you knew how to do it right, I would never, ever go to meals first. That's the wrong way to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
You want to go to...
It's the easy way, right?
It's the easy way, yeah, but it's the wrong way to do it. You look at what third world countries do. You go to your macronutrients. Mm-hmm. After you get your macronutrients, then you get to your micronutrients. Then at the very end, you go do your pre-made meals as comfort food. And those are your side dishes, not your main dishes.
Interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the right way to do it. Anyway, I know we only have a little bit left, so let me just get the other 3 points in there.
Yeah.
But the number 5 is called meet your other needs. I can go into a whole little lesson on that, but meet your other needs are going to be all the different things you need, like the communications, your first aid, your energy, your sanitation, all the different things you need to sustain yourself for the long term. And then you go to number 6, which is maintain your standard of living, right? You want to thrive, not just survive, right? thrive, not just survive during an emergency. And when I lived in Brazil, I lived through 30,000% inflation in 1 year. And I learned a ton of stuff on that. I mean, each of these steps I'm giving you is a whole lesson easily. I can go on for 5-10 hours, right? But I learned a ton of stuff in Brazil through 30,000% inflation, and we're headed that way. And in our country, I mean, you can't go from 6 trillion to 35 trillion and think everything's good, right?
Yeah.
You can't have a derivative market that is over half a quadrillion, more money than all the money in the world combined. You can't have a bubble like that and not expect it to pop sometime. And so the thing about it is you have to figure out, how do you maintain your standard of living? There's about 3 to 4 ways of doing that, things I learned in Brazil. And then number 7 is you got to help others get prepared around you, and you got to create a community. Without that, you're not going to make it. So people say, well, I just want to live in, some Timbuk 3 place just by myself. And I'm like, good luck. Because what happens if you fall? You have no doctor, you have no dentist, you have no expertise. You don't have the people around you. If you study the communities, you'll find out that 150 people is the low end of what you need around you. You get enough diversity with 150 people to have a farmer, to have an electrician, to have a plumber, to have all the different things you might need. That's the low end. The more people you add to your community, the more community you have. Now you have 300, right? Most states in the United States cut off a town from a city right around 3,000. But what's interesting is right around that 3,000 mark, you start adding more people and you start losing community. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you don't gain community, you lose
returns.
Yeah. So you get up 10,000, 30,000, 50,000 people, you go, man, I've got a huge community. No, you got less of a community. And the litmus test is, for most communities, is when you get a flat tire, or you're stranded on the side of the road or in the middle of the road, do 2, 3, 4, 5 people pull over to help you, or do they honk and let you go?
Wow.
That's a good litmus test to see if you even have a community around you still.
Yeah.
And so that's a good way to go. But there's a whole lesson on community learning. There's a systematic way of helping people who you don't think want to get prepared, including your children, your neighbors, and everything else. If you do it the wrong way at the beginning, you will lose your chance to do it forever.
Yeah.
You'll burn your bridges from the beginning if you don't do it the right way. And I have experience on this.
Let me take a couple minutes here and just show your website real fast.
You bet.
So this is the website. There's a link in the description below. It's the Preparedness Challenge is the website. But if you click the link in the description below, you'll be supporting the show. The first course is $17, and then that gives you the opportunity to upgrade to a $67 course, right?
Yeah, where you're going to get about, first course is me giving the 7 steps in more depth. So you're going to learn a ton. I mean, just that $17 is worth $600 just by itself. Okay.
And then the next course, what does the next one do?
The next one, VIP, I bring about 20 of my friends, people from the show alone, all these different celebrities, the best in the industry, not just the names, the best in the industry, like the #1 emergency bread maker in the world, all these different celebrities I bring in, and we give another 20 hours of all of us teaching and invaluable stuff. I mean, it's worth a couple $1,000s easily to have all 20 of us speaking, $100 a piece easily. And we're doing that for $67. If people want to upgrade to remember the program I was telling you can get more done in 80% done in 90 days. Just to give a little information on that, I moved into a new house about a year and a few months ago, and I was able to unpack most of my stuff in 80% of my stuff within about 2 to 3 weeks, put away and everything else. Mm-hmm. I'm a year and something into this, and that 20% I haven't even gotten to.
Still there.
It's in my garage. It's all the piles of papers I haven't gone through. I just can't get to it.
That's legit.
But the truth is, that's what it is in preparedness also. If you know the 80% to focus on, you'll get more prepared in 90 days than most people in 10 to 15 years.
The 80-20 rule.
It's the 80-20 rule. That's exactly it. And then you'll spend the rest of your life, like us 3 are doing, learning stuff all day I'm learning about crazy things right now, chemistry and physics and all these crazy things I'm learning for the rest of your life. Now that Thrivalist course, that's the 80% that you're going to be able to learn. Obviously, I can't teach all my knowledge in 5 hours, or even 25 hours in that VIP course. I take people through 7 steps. When they get done with the 7 steps, they're prepared. They're prepared 80% plus of the way. When people were asking me what should I price it at, this is a $9,000 course. I mean, all the stuff, I'm not going to get into all the details of everything I'm giving, all the extra classes, all the discounts, thousands of dollars of discounts in products like Mountain House and everything else with this course. I'm giving so much value with this course. But the thing I learned is if I give something to someone for free, 2 things happen. First of all, they don't do it.
Mm.
Second of all, they're the biggest complainers. Have you noticed that? You give something for free, and they
harder to sell something that's free more often than it is to sell something that's like just a couple $100. If
it has zero value to them if it's free.
It's ridiculous. And so the thing about it is, people are saying, Marcel, you need to charge $9,000 for this, and I go, but then nobody's going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
There's going to be very few families that are going to be able to afford this. So what I did is I picked $997. Why? It's painful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's painful enough to get somebody to finish a course,
but it's doable.
But it's doable. And I made it so that if they just do the $997 and finish it within 90 days, they get all their money back in product. It's really easy.
That's so cool.
And the thing about it is now I helped a family because they committed to $1,000. Okay, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do it if it was $25 or $100. Most people would not finish it. Yeah. The cool thing about it, this is the awesome part. You guys know about the completion rate of courses. Usually it's about 6-7%. We're getting about 98 out of 100 people finishing the course.
Wow,
that's awesome.
Which makes me super happy every time I have to send out another package.
Makes me want to go do the course, Marcello. Honestly,
it's awesome. It's the right way to do it. You know, it's getting prepared the right way the first time.
That's awesome.
That is really important. I get a lot of people asking me, where to start. And this sounds fantastic, Marcello. We appreciate the time. Yeah, it's very interesting. I think I'm going to do it myself, honestly.
No, you'll love it.
We'll talk more, Marcello. Let's get some more information offline. I'll reach out to you probably the next few days. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise with us and sharing it with our audience. We hope that this has been a valuable episode for you, to those of you who are listening. Once again, Marcello Surjopolos, he's an expert in food storage. He's created a course that we have a link for in the description below for you to take that course and be able to take advantage of all the great things that he shared with us today. Make sure you do that. Please have a great rest of your day. And thank you again for listening to Prepper Talk Radio, Radio for the Ready-Minded, the podcast for the prepared. And with that, we'll see you next time.
See you next week. Thanks, Marcello.